Welcome. This week we are going to go over lessons 61 to 64. All right. Did you do the enrichment lesson or not? And if you did, how did it go? Send me pictures. Debbie at rightstartmath.com. I would love to see it. And if you're still in the process of making the Cotter tens fractal, then remember to send it a picture to me when you get it finished. Now, I will not publish these unless you give me permission, but I would just love to see. I know that's a lot of work that you guys put into it. Before we jump into the lessons, let's go see what materials you're going to need this week. You're going to need your dry erase board, your worksheets, the base card number deck, your math card game book, the Abacus, your place value cards, and your base 10 picture cards. Lesson 61, adding several numbers. You know, I talk about warm-up being review, and if you have a child that doesn't need it, then don't do it. But also know that sometimes part of the lesson is built into the warm-up. And so that's kind of what's going on in this lesson. If you look at the warm-up, you're going to use the dry erase board to make your whole part circle sets. But notice you're using more than just 2 parts. You're going to have 3 parts in there. And then you have a story problem that your child will have to fill in the parts and then fill in the whole. In this case, we start off with 11. And there's 3 friends and they have to figure out who gets how many. And this is not division where we want to know and try to get numbers to go into 11 equally. We just want to know what are some ways that we could distribute these apples amongst 3 people. Maybe you give 6 to one friend because he has 5 brothers. Maybe you give 4 to another so he could share with his parents. So there's various reasons why you would give more to one person than another. Or maybe you give 6 to one because they're going to make a dessert with some of those apples. I don't know. Give your own reasons or ask your child why he should give or she should give more to one person and not as much to another. Be interesting to hear what they have to say. So in the activities section, you do start off with the worksheet, and they're going to be adding 3 different numbers. I would have them do a couple of them and then ask them, kind of get an idea of how they're doing this. Find out if they think there's a way that's easier than another way. You could even point some things out for them also. So example, we have 3 plus 2 plus 1. Is it easier to add 1 to the 3 and say 4 plus 2? Is it easier to add 1 to the 2 and then say 3 plus 3? Or maybe they prefer to do 3 plus 2 is 5 and 1 more is 6. So there's a lot of different ways you can combine these numbers. And so discuss with your child which way they like to do it. And maybe one of the ways you point out is not a way they thought that they would like it, but then end up finding that they really like it. You never know unless you talk about it. So the activity after the worksheet is to help prepare your children to play a game called Rows and Columns. And the object of the game is to find numbers that equal 15, either in the rows or in the columns. But before you get into the game, this is kind of a preview of getting your child comfortable to what they're going to be doing. So you're going to lay out those exact cards, the 9, the 4, the 1, and the 5. And then have your child look and see if they can make 15 with those numbers. And hopefully they could see the 9 and 1 make 10, and then the 5 makes 15. And then you'll repeat that for the next 2 sets of cards that they show, just to get your child comfortable so they know what they're going to be doing. Now it's interesting that they only have the rows of cards. They're not showing it in a column. So I think maybe you should take one of these examples and put the cards in a column where the numbers are on top of each other. So your child could be familiar with seeing it that way also, because that's really how it's going to work in the game. And I'm going to switch over so I can show you how to play this game, rows and columns. It's a fun game. All right, to play rows and columns, you just need the deck of basic number cards, which look like this. You're going to lay 4 across and 4 down. So that's your grid. Oh, no zeros. You don't want any zeros, you don't want any 10s. All right. So the object of the game is, you're going to look and see if you can make 15 going across in one of the rows or down in one of the columns. These kind of games do require some thinking, and that's a good thing. So like you can look here, 7, we have 2 and 1 is 3, so that's 10 and 4. That's not going to work. 14, nothing in this column. Let's see, 9, 12, 9, 11. Nope. Oh, I see something over here though. Do y'all see it? 6 and 4 make 10, and 5 make 15. Now I could take this and be done with that, but I'm going to look and see what I have in my rows, because it's my turn as long as I can find cards. And the goal is to get as many cards as I can. So let me look. That's 9, 13, no, 16, no. Ooh, look, 6, 4, 3, and 2. I could take that whole column, which is more than these 3 cards, right? Let's see, 9, no, no. So I am going to take these cards because 6 and 4 make 10, 3 and 2 make 5, so that's my 15. There's nothing else that I can see. All right, so now it's the next person's turn. You're going to replace the cards. All right, and then they get to go. So A53 rows and columns is a game that is meant to be played with like at least one other person. If you wanted to turn this into a solitaire game, you can look at A54 in the math card game book, and we'll show you how you could do this as a solitaire game. Lesson 62, solving problems with 3 add-ins. Here the objectives say we're going to practice adding several numbers and then define 2, 3, or 4 numbers that total 15. So we'll be working on that again. You see at the end that they have a chance to get to play the rows and columns game again. And honestly, playing the games over and over again is a good thing. Think about it. If your child plays a sport, if they play basketball or they play football, or maybe they do gymnastics, or maybe they do art, maybe it's not sports, but they like to draw. Just doing it once, I mean, it's okay. Some people are real natural, but the more you practice, the better you get. Well, that's no different than the games. The games are such a core part of Right Start. And I understand. I have 6 children. I know how busy the days can get. And I, for one, did not understand the importance of the games till much later. And that's one thing I do regret, not playing more of the games. And that's actually something I'm making up with my granddaughter. She's been playing a lot more of the games, and it's so helpful. So I want to encourage you, find the time to play the games, especially if you're doing 4 days of math. Make that 5th day a game day and just play 1 or 2 of these games. You'll see a huge difference in your child's ability, in their understanding and being able to answer their question, the math questions, get their facts. All right. So anyway, sorry for that little tangent, but I just want to encourage you guys, games, games, games. They are so important. Now in this lesson, you're going to see you're going to give your child different numbers, but they go along with the story problem. So notice they're going to get the worksheet. You ask them to read the problem twice. Now, you may have a child that reads really well. That's okay. Have them read it twice. You have a child that struggles with reading. You determine, do you read it to them? I had a child that when I was in level B, he was not at a point where he was reading. So I just read for him. That's no big deal. Just read it, but read it twice. And then you're asking your child to solve it any way they like. This could be a challenge for some of you parents, I know. Let them try to figure it out any way they like. Some can get really creative. Also, discuss how they got their solution. How did they figure it out? Now, these have more than 2 numbers in their problem. So when you write it out, you can write out the equation and then talk with your child about how they figured it out. Because finding 7, like here we have 3 plus 6 plus 7. Well, adding 7 and 3 for 10 and then adding the 6 for 16 makes doing that so much faster. But you know, maybe they wanted to do 6 plus 3 is 9 and 9 plus 7 is 16. Maybe for them, that's not any slower than the other way. So discuss, see which way they prefer doing it. I'd like to skip up to problem 4 because I want to point out, it says it has some added complications because it's not telling you explicitly how many shoes Michael and Matthew have. It says that Michael and Matthew each have 6 shoes. So some children might need to hear that a couple times before it clicks that each of them have 6 shoes. It talks about how many Matilda has, and then it also brings in the number 3, speaking about 3 children. And again, this ends with playing the game rows and columns. 63, adding side 2 on the abacus. So now we get to flip that abacus over and work on the back side of it. So in the materials, look at number 1. It says yellow is the sun, CD, or 30 days has September. They're wanting you to teach your child the new song, 30 Days Has September. That is something you can find on our website at writestartmath.com. Actually, I'll take you to it. It's been a while since we've done this. So you go to writestartmath.com, go to curriculum, go down here to songs, and there you have your 30 Days Has September. So it's nice that is on there. You don't have to mess with the CD. I know a lot of you guys probably don't even have the capability of playing a CD anymore. Things change so much, so quick lately. So your child's going to compose a number using the base 10 picture cards along with their place value cards. Once they do that, then they're going to use the back side of the abacus. You can see how this is different. These 2 are for the 1,000. These 2 are for the 100. These 2 are for the 10. And this is for your 1. One of the things you're going to need to stress with your children is on this side of the abacus. Now these beads will mean 1 because they're in the column for 1. So that's the value of this bead. But when this bead is in this means this bead represents a 10. All right, and then over here, this bead represents 100. And then this bead is going to represent 1,000. On this side of the abacus, each bead represented 1. So we need to make sure children understand when we're on the second side, it only represents 1 if it's in the column under the 1. That's what it represents. So let them understand that these numbers are showing the place value in what these beads represent. And then look in the explanations on that second page about how on side 2 of the abacus, we're emphasizing, trading, and preparing the child for adding 4-digit numbers on paper, how quantities are entered from left to right. So you're going to enter quantities from left to right. It gives examples of how we read from left to right. We do mental arithmetic left to right. We enter quantities on the calculator from left to right. It's also the way we say numbers, with the exception of the teen numbers. They're always a little contrary, whether they're numbers or children. The other thing is, as you're entering, we do it evenly. And notice, this is the ones, so that means all the beads like here are going to be the same color as you enter. And you can see quickly when you have 10, see the 2 yellow for 5 and 5, and then the 2 blue. So we have 10, 1 10, 2 ones. Same with the 10s. This would be 10 10s or 100. Here we have 12 10s, 120. And then we have our hundreds. We want to do it equally. And then our thousands. And the reason they do that, you know, there's a wire, here's a blank, and here's a blank, is because they didn't want it to where it works out like this would be the hundreds. Then it's a little confusing having the blue and the yellow. And there's a modified let's compare game where you're going to lay out all the place value cards. And then one player is going to enter an amount on side 2 of the abacus. The other player will make that quantity with the place value cards. So you guys take turns. You pick out numbers, place value cards, build a number, and then your child will enter that on the abacus, and then it switches and they'll make the number, and then you enter it onto the abacus. Last lesson for this week, lesson 64, bead trading. If you look at the adding the place value card game, again, you're going to lay out all your place value cards. So start with the first number, and it tells you exactly what numbers to do. And again, you say the number, they're going to compose the number with place value cards. Then they'll enter it onto the abacus. They leave the beads on the abacus, so make sure it's laying flat. They're not going to clear the abacus. They're just going to add the next group of numbers to the abacus. Then you're going to talk about trading. Do they have enough ones to trade for 10s or a 10? Do they have enough 10s that they could trade for 100? Do they have enough hundreds that they need to trade for 1,000? And then once you trade, then there's more cards, numbers that you're going to give them and have them do, until if everything's done right, it shows you what that final answer should be. And then the kids are going to play the bead trading game. I like this game. This is actually a game that I will play sometimes when I'm at a convention and it's slow. So I'll flip over or switch over so I can show you how to play this game on the abacus. You're going to use a stack of the basic number cards. Because I was showing you the other game, I don't have my 10s in here, but you can have 10s in here. You can have your 0s in here. And the object of this game is you want to become a champion by reaching a score of 100. Or you can become the grand champion of reaching the score of 1,000. And really what the purpose of this game is, 1, they're going to learn trading, getting comfortable trading on this side of the abacus. 2, they're going to see that it takes a lot of cards to get to the thousands. So you just flip it over. We're going to enter 8. Remember, we want to do it evenly. We're going to enter 1. And we're not adding. The purpose of this is not to add. So we have 2, 4, 6. The purpose of this is, do I have enough ones that I can trade for a 10? I see my 5 and my 5. So yes, I have 10. So I'm going to take 10 away. Now, at first, your child's probably going to count. Make sure they do it by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right. And we want to do it evenly. So as we're taking the 10 ones away, we're going to move our 10 up. Oh, I don't add anything. I'm going to add 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Again, do I have enough ones to trade for 10? Well, yes, I do. Now, I'm just going to let you in on this little secret. It may take a while for your kids to understand this, and I would not pressure them to notice. But do you notice there's 4 blue beads? There's 10 yellow. I don't need to count how many I'm going to take away because I know that I need to leave up here to mimic the blue beads. All right, because when they were up like this, 10, right? 5 and 5 is 10, and then I have my 4. I know I'm going to be taking 10 away if I leave the 4 up here. And again, we want to do this. We trade it out. All right, we keep going. Now we have 7. And you can see we're going to do a lot of practice with trading. 8. 2. Aha, look. I get to leave 1. 7. 4. I can leave my 2. Now, oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was moving up. Do I have enough 10s to trade in for 100? I do. I have 10 10s. Actually, I have 11 10s. So I'm going to leave one of those 10s and trade in these 10s for 100. I would be a champion right now. I can end the game. But maybe I want to see what it's going to take to get to 1,000. So the bead trading game is a fun game. It could take some time. Getting to 100 is not as long as getting to 1,000. What you could do, if you have a child that really wants to make it to 1,000, but maybe they're getting tired or they're running out of time because they have to do other things, put the game to the side. Keep the abacus the way it is, you know, with the deck of cards. So I have the abacus on a marker board. I could put my cards on here, leave the abacus the way it is. I still have my beads on here. You can't really see. It's not that easy to see, but I can set this aside and play it at a later time. I do want to point out on the explanation, it does say that an error to watch for. So keep an eye out for this. Watch your children while they're doing this at the beginning until you know that they know what they're doing. It says that some children, after trading 10 10s for 100, will continue entering ones in the 10s column rather than in the ones column. So make sure they understand that the only time they're going to enter a number in the 10s column is when they trade 10 ones for 110. All right, we are finished. We made it through another week. I am excited for you guys. 2 new fun games, rows and columns, and bead trading. So I look forward to hearing how it went for y'all. Enjoy your week and join me next week as we go over lessons 65 to 68. Until then.